Personal responsibility is the foundation of empowerment because it shifts control back into your hands the moment you accept that your life is a result of your decisions, not your circumstances. You reclaim authority over your future. Blame weakens momentum, but ownership strengthens it. When responsibility becomes a mindset, excuses lose their power and clarity begins to take shape. Taking responsibility means recognizing that no one is coming to save you, fix things for you, or live your life on your behalf. This realization is not heavy, it is liberating. It frees you from dependency and places your progress directly under your control. With responsibility comes the understanding that growth is a choice made daily, not a gift given randomly. Empowerment grows when you stop outsourcing your results to luck, timing, or other people. Waiting for permission delays progress, while ownership accelerates it. When you take responsibility, you stop asking why things aren't working and start asking what you can change. This shift in thinking transforms problems into opportunities for action. Responsibility also demands honesty with yourself. It requires you to assess your habits, routines, and standards without distortion or denial. Self-awareness becomes a tool rather than a threat. By identifying what is working and what is not, you create space for intentional improvement instead of repeating cycles of frustration. When you accept personal responsibility, discipline replaces emotion as your primary driver. You act not because you feel like it, but because the outcome matters. This creates consistency, and consistency builds credibility, first with yourself, then with others. Each disciplined action reinforces your identity as someone who follows through. Empowered individuals understand that responsibility extends to their thoughts and beliefs. What you repeatedly think becomes what you repeatedly experience. Choosing empowering thoughts over limiting ones is not accidental, it is intentional. Responsibility over the mind leads to mastery over behavior. Responsibility also reshapes how you respond to setbacks. Instead of reacting with discouragement or resentment, you respond with reflection and adjustment. You extract lessons instead of excuses. Each challenge becomes feedback, and feedback becomes fuel for growth. Taking responsibility raises your standards because you no longer tolerate what undermines your progress. You become selective about how you spend your time, what you entertain mentally, and who you allow influence over your decisions. Empowerment thrives in environments shaped by intention, not convenience. As responsibility deepens, confidence strengthens. You begin to trust yourself because you have evidence of follow-through. Confidence is no longer based on motivation or mood, but on proof of consistent action. This self-trust becomes a stable foundation for greater challenges and higher goals. Personal responsibility ultimately reconnects you with your ability to create change. It reminds you that every decision, no matter how small, contributes to the direction of your life. Empowerment grows each time you choose ownership over avoidance, action over delay, and accountability over comfort. Daily discipline is the quiet force behind every lasting success because it transforms intention into reality. Goals remain ideas until discipline gives them structure and movement. When you commit to disciplined actions each day, progress becomes predictable rather than accidental. What feels small in the moment compounds into powerful results over time. Discipline is not about restriction, it is about direction. It guides your energy toward what truly matters instead of allowing it to be scattered by distractions. Each disciplined choice reinforces focus and sharpens clarity. Over time, this focus builds momentum that makes consistency easier and resistance weaker. Long-term success is rarely the result of dramatic breakthroughs, but of repeated execution. Daily discipline removes the need for constant motivation because action becomes automatic. When routines are established, effort decreases while effectiveness increases. Success begins to feel less like struggle and more like alignment. Discipline trains the mind to honor commitments, especially when emotions fluctuate. Feelings change, circumstances shift, but disciplined action remains steady. By acting regardless of mood, you build reliability within yourself. This internal reliability becomes a powerful advantage in a world driven by impulse. Each day of discipline strengthens identity. You stop seeing discipline as something you do and start seeing it as who you are. This identity shift creates confidence rooted in evidence rather than hope. With each completed task, self-trust grows stronger. Daily discipline also creates resilience. When challenges arise, disciplined individuals do not collapse under pressure because they have practiced consistency. Their response is trained, not reactive. The habits built during calm moments carry them through difficult seasons. Success over time requires patience, and discipline supplies that patience through structure. When you focus on daily execution instead of distant outcomes, anxiety decreases. Progress becomes measurable and controllable. This keeps momentum alive even when results are not immediately visible. Discipline compounds like interest. One focused hour a day becomes mastery over months. One disciplined decision repeated consistently reshapes outcomes permanently. The accumulation of effort eventually reaches a tipping point where growth accelerates naturally. Daily discipline also protects you from self-sabotage. Clear routines reduce decision fatigue and limit exposure to distraction. When your day is designed intentionally, willpower is preserved for what truly matters. Discipline becomes a safeguard for progress. Over time, discipline transforms ambition into achievement. What once required effort becomes instinct. What once felt difficult becomes normal. Long-term success emerges not from intensity, but from unwavering commitment to disciplined action day after day. Mindset is the invisible force that determines the speed and direction of your progress. Before actions are taken, beliefs are formed, and those beliefs either accelerate movement or create resistance. When the mind is aligned with growth, momentum flows naturally. When the mind is conflicted, even simple actions feel heavy and delayed. Outcome begins as a thought, and repeated thoughts become dominant patterns. These patterns influence decisions, often without conscious awareness. A focused, empowered mindset filters challenges as opportunities rather than threats. This interpretation alone can shift how quickly and confidently you move forward. Momentum increases when your mindset is rooted in possibility instead of limitation. What you believe is possible determines what you attempt. What you attempt determines what you learn. Growth expands when the mind is trained to expect progress rather than prepare for failure. A strong mindset reduces hesitation. Doubt slows movement, while belief sharpens execution. When you trust your ability to learn, adapt, and recover, fear loses its grip. Action becomes less about certainty and more about commitment, the way you speak to yours. ELF daily shapes your internal environment. Internal dialogue can either energize or exhaust you. When your thoughts reinforce capability and discipline, motivation becomes more consistent. Mental alignment fuels sustained forward motion. Mindset also determines how you interpret setbacks. A limited mindset views obstacles as proof to stop. A growth-oriented mindset views them as data to adjust. This interpretation determines whether momentum is lost or strengthened under pressure. Consistency depends heavily on mindset. When progress feels slow, the mind decides whether to continue or quit. A disciplined mindset values process over instant reward. This patience keeps momentum alive during seasons where results are not yet visible. Your mindset influences the standards you accept. Low expectations produce minimal action, while elevated thinking demands excellence. When your internal standards rise, behavior follows. Momentum increases because actions align with higher self-expectations. Confidence is not a personality trait. It is a mindset shaped by repeated proof. Each aligned action strengthens belief, and strengthened belief fuels faster action. This feedback loop creates self-sustaining momentum over time. As mindset sharpens, resistance decreases and focus intensifies. Energy is no longer wasted on internal conflict. Direction becomes clearer, execution becomes smoother, and momentum becomes a natural outcome of aligned thinking and intentional belief. Structure creates a framework that allows effort to translate into results. Without structure, energy is scattered and progress becomes inconsistent. When your days, goals, and priorities are organized, action becomes more efficient. Structure removes uncertainty and replaces it with clarity, making forward movement easier and more deliberate. Simplicity sharpens focus by eliminating unnecessary complexity. Many people delay progress by overthinking, overplanning, or adding layers. that do not serve the outcome. Simplicity strips away distractions and reveals what truly matters. When the path is clear, execution becomes faster and more confident. Structure supports consistency by reducing decision fatigue. When routines are defined, you no longer negotiate with yourself about what to do next. This preserves mental energy for meaningful work rather than trivial choices. Over time, consistency compounds into measurable progress. Clear structure also strengthens discipline. Knowing when, where, and how actions are taken increases follow-through. Discipline thrives in predictable systems rather than chaotic environments. A structured approach turns effort into habit and habit into momentum. Simplicity improves adaptability. When systems are clean and focused, adjustments can be made without disruption. Complexity creates friction, while simplicity allows flexibility. This makes growth sustainable even as circumstances change. Results accelerate when structure aligns with priorities. Not everything deserves equal attention. Structure helps you allocate time and resources intentionally. When energy is invested where it matters most, progress becomes visible more quickly. Simplicity also builds confidence. Clear goals and defined steps reduce overwhelm. When tasks feel manageable, action feels achievable. Confidence grows as each simple step is completed consistently. Structure creates accountability even in private. A planned day exposes missed actions and highlights progress. This awareness encourages responsibility and reinforces commitment. Accountability strengthens execution when external pressure is absent. When simplicity guides structure, focus deepens. Distractions lose their influence because priorities are defined. This focus increases quality and speed of OU. T-put. Less effort is wasted and more value is produced. Over time, structure and simplicity transform effort into effectiveness. What once felt complicated becomes streamlined. Progress accelerates not because more is done, but because what is done is intentional, aligned, and consistently executed. Conviction is a deeper force than motivation because it is anchored in belief rather than emotion. Motivation rises and falls based on feelings, circumstances, and energy levels, but conviction remains steady regardless of external conditions. When conviction drives action, consistency becomes possible even on difficult days. Motivation often waits for the right mood, while conviction acts from principle. Feelings can encourage action, but they can just as easily excuse delay. Conviction eliminates negotiation with the self. When something is non-negotiable, action follows without internal debate. Conviction creates stability in decision-making. Instead of constantly reassessing whether something is worth doing, you operate from a settled belief that it must be done. This removes hesitation and accelerates execution. Momentum builds because effort is no longer interrupted by doubt. When conviction is present, discipline becomes natural rather than forced. You no longer rely on external pressure or temporary inspiration. Action is driven by identity and values. What aligns with your convictions becomes automatic, even when it requires sacrifice. Motivation seeks comfort, while conviction demands commitment. Comfort avoids discomfort, but commitment embraces growth. Conviction empowers you to endure inconvenience because the purpose is clear. This endurance separates temporary effort from long-term achievement. Conviction also strengthens resilience. When setbacks occur, motivation may fade, but conviction adapts. Instead of quitting, you adjust your approach. Failure. E becomes a signal to refine strategy rather than abandon the mission. Internal conviction builds self-trust. Each time you act in alignment with your beliefs, confidence deepens. This trust does not depend on outcomes, but on integrity with your principles. Over time, self-trust becomes a powerful internal engine. Conviction simplifies priorities. When values are clear, distractions lose their appeal. You stop chasing every opportunity and start committing to what matters most. Focus sharpens because choices are filtered through belief rather than impulse. Motivation is reactive, responding to external stimuli, while conviction is proactive, guiding behavior intentionally. This proactive stance creates leadership over your own actions. You no longer wait to feel ready. You move Because readiness is a decision. As conviction strengthens, action becomes consistent regardless of emotional state. Progress continues through fatigue, uncertainty, and resistance. What you are committed to shapes how you live, how you work, and how you show up every day. Challenges are not interruptions to progress. They are instruments that shape it. Every difficulty introduces resistance, and resistance is what strengthens capacity. Without challenge, growth remains theoretical. Pressure forces development that comfort never demands. Expansion requires attention because ease does not activate unused potential. Challenges stretch thinking, refine skills, and expose weaknesses that would otherwise remain hidden. What feels like opposition is often an invitation to evolve. Growth begins where convenience ends. Each challenge reveals what needs strengthening internally. Patience, discipline, focus, and resilience are not learned in ease, but forged through difficulty. When circumstances apply pressure, character is clarified. What emerges under strain is what truly defines progress. NGEs also sharpen awareness. They demand attention and force prioritization. Distractions lose relevance when difficulty requires focus. This narrowing of attention creates clarity and efficiency that comfort rarely produces. When obstacles appear, they introduce new perspectives. Solutions that once seemed impossible become necessary. Creativity expands when routine no longer works. The mind adapts because it must, and adaptation leads to capability. Challenges develop endurance. Repeated exposure to difficulty builds tolerance for pressure. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. This expanded capacity allows greater responsibility and opportunity to be handled with confidence. Growth through challenge also builds humility and wisdom. It reveals limits while simultaneously extending them. Lessons gained through struggle are retained because they are earned. Experience becomes a reliable teacher rather than a theoretical concept. Challenges expose gaps between intention and execution. They reveal where discipline is lacking and where systems need refinement. This feedback is valuable because it directs improvement. Without challenge, flaws remain uncorrected. As challenges are navigated, identity shifts. You begin to see yourself as capable of handling more. Confidence grows from evidence, not optimism. Each challenge overcome reinforces belief in your ability to adapt and persist. Expansion becomes inevitable when challenges are approached with awareness rather than resistance. Difficulty becomes a tool rather than a threat. Growth continues not in spite of challenges, but because of them.